Hello everybody, it's an honour and indeed a pleasure to present at this conference, albeit virtually. My name is Shee McCarthy and I'm a lecturer in organisational behaviour at the Chemie Business School at the University of Limerick, and together with my colleague Shee, who is a lecturer in entrepreneurship at the Chemie Business School at the University of Limerick, we are delighted to introduce our new teaching and learning project at the Chemie Business School entitled Acta non-Verba, Deeds Not Words, a frenetic approach to educating sustainability orientated organisational decision makers. Essentially, with this project, we are on a mission to develop teaching materials and teaching resources to help promote sustainability, attitudes and decision-making behaviour among business school graduates. Today, I want to briefly introduce you to the rationale for this project, what led us to this project, and the progress that we've had to date, particularly through initial seed funding via the local enhancement project funds from the National Forum for the Enhancement of Teaching and Learning in Higher Education. We would be delighted to hear more from you if you are interested in getting involved in this project, and we'll leave our contact details at the end. Thank you. Like every good story, we have to have a beginning. So I'd like to take you through the rationale for this project, the genesis for this project, and the reasons why we're so passionate about ensuring that this project succeeds. Transforming our world, the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development is ambitious. Realising the Sustainable Development Goals, a set of 17 targets established by world leaders to reduce inequalities, combat climate change and improve overall quality of life, requires multi-stakeholder initiatives that advance collaborative and creative solutions to global progress challenges. In education, the 2030 Agenda calls on academic institutions to use resourceful pedagogical approaches to transform their teaching in support of these SDGs. This changing global landscape dictates a clear understanding of the latent factors that encourage people to behave more sustainably, particularly those who make decisions in organisations. And business schools are viewed as one critical mechanism in shaping sustainability-orientated attitudes and behaviour among future organisational decision makers, since business graduates go on to play key roles not only in for-profit organisations, but also, of course, in civil society and public policy. Business education is therefore viewed as particularly critical in preparing future leaders to make responsible and sustainable decisions that promote progress on the Sustainable Development Goals among the global community. Despite a growing interest in sustainability across business studies and organisational and management science, and a growing trend towards the inclusion of sustainability-related content in many business schools, research-led teaching resources and materials in this field are still underdeveloped, and it is unclear if and how they are helping to reinforce the sustainability dimension in business courses, or indeed influence sustainability-orientated attitudes and behaviour among business students. Business schools have been accused of failing to develop students as the responsible thinkers and practical problem solvers that the 2030 Agenda requires. The business school curriculum is often criticised as overly reliant on theories of abstract rationality and value neutrality, often narrowly focused on didactic instruction and lacking in relevance to the practicalities of 21st century organising. Consequently, there have been numerous calls for business schools to move toward a critical thinking approach for sustainability that centres on practical wisdom, the ability to think and act in relation to values, or what Aristotle called phronesis. Phronesis is the activity by which scientific and instrumental rationality is balanced by value rationality, and such balancing is of course crucial to the viability of any organisation, from the family to a business to the state. Repositioning business schools as catalysts for sustainable development with a frenetic orientation therefore requires progress on the content and pedagogy involved in the teaching of sustainability. The basic tenet of frenetic research is that practical examples are typically more effective vehicles of communication than are discussions of theory. As such, Bridgman, Cummings and McLaughlin suggests that one potentially fruitful avenue which would allow business schools to build their credibility as expert and relatively independent observers of the role of business in society is to revisit and reimagine the case method for sustainable development. So what is the case method? The case method is a discussion-based teaching tool that requires the active involvement of students who analyse and debate specific real-life organisational situations or simulated organisational situations called cases and generate solutions or recommendations to address the issues at stake. The case method was pioneered by Harvard Business School, where the analysis of cases is the primary mode of teaching and learning, and case development is a major focus of research. The case method is now considered the most effective instructional strategy for developing critical thinking among business students and has been embraced by the curriculum in many business schools. Both of us had the opportunity to complete our case method teacher training at Harvard Business School in 2019, and then of course had the opportunity to use case method teaching both face-to-face and more recently virtually in our classes at the Chemie Business School. And we truly do see the power of the case method and believe in the power of the case method in developing critical thinking skills among our business students. That being said, we're fully aware of the current limitations to adopting the case method specifically to promote sustainable attitudes and behaviour among business graduates. First, the cases utilised in case method teaching have been criticised for encouraging narrow, functionalist understandings of business rather than on holistic thinking on the interests and influence of multiple stakeholders in society. And indeed, little research exists on case method learning experiences of business students with regard to their engagement with principles of sustainability, or on how educators can use case teaching materials more effectively to promote sustainability orientated attitudes and behaviour. So all of this led to our current passion project, Acta non-Verba, which proposes to address these concerns through an innovative, frenetic programme of research, which aims to write, publish and disseminate a novel set of teaching cases for use in business education and higher education institutions, which are anchored in the UN Sustainable Development Goals, but centre on a completely new type of research context, B Corps. The B Corp is a completely new for-profit legal entity which explicitly works to balance profit maximisation with a social and environmental sustainability mission. The B Corp certification legally requires organisations to evaluate and enhance their outcomes for employees, community and the environment and adhere to higher than typical standards of purpose and transparency. And despite the significance of the B Corp as being, the first structural, legal and moral alternative to the primacy of shareholder value that has formed much of our resource depletion and sustainability issues, which have led to the 2030 agenda and our focus on transforming our world towards the achievement of the SDGs. B Corps have received very little scholarly attention across social science and particularly in business education. So we see this as a real opportunity now to develop teaching materials that will used through the case method that will really help to promote responsible and sustainable attitudes and behaviours among business graduates. So there are more than 3,000 certified B corporations globally, this new kind of business that balances purpose and profit. We will conduct a number of case studies on B Corps comprising observation, multi-stage in-depth interviews and secondary analysis of documents. Data restructuring will then be employed to translate this research into discrete teaching cases. Each teaching case will centre on a protagonist, here a specific organisational decision maker in the B Corp, as he or she or they face a particular sustainability orientated decision making point in their organisation. Teaching cases are designed and written so that students assume the role of the protagonist in a decision making scenario and are required to propose and defend their decision making choices. Each case will identify a specific set of learning outcomes and will comprise approximately 10 to 15 pages of narrative text, supplemented by additional decision-making information in appendices. A teaching note will also be developed for each case to serve as a guide to instructors. We were very fortunate to receive seed funding for this project. through the local enhancement project domain of the Strategic Alignment of Teaching and Learning Enhancement Fund 2019 via the National Forum for the Enhancement of Teaching and Learning in Higher Education. This seed funding allowed us to run a workshop on writing effective teaching cases, which was delivered by Martin Cupp, an Associate Professor of Entrepreneurship and Strategy at ESCP Business School. Martin is considered one of the world's leading experts on case writing and case teaching, so we were so pleased to be able to bring him to the University of Limerick, where 40 participants took part in Writing Effective Teaching Cases workshop, and we also invited some of our colleagues from the Sustainable Development Goals Academy in New York to speak with us about the importance of embedding sustainability in the business school curriculum. This was an online workshop given the restrictions around the current COVID-19 pandemic, but it was a really effective and really insightful workshop where we now have the tools and the resources that we need to begin to write so that we can disseminate these important teaching case materials for use in business schools across higher education. We would be delighted to welcome questions, feedback, and indeed any interest in collaborating with us on this project. Please do contact us at jean.mccarthy@ul.ie and/or brian.shee@ul.ie for more information. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful summer.